Welcome back to another episode of Psycosmos. Today, we're going to be talking about the fifth principle of Hermeticism, also known as gender. Actually, these are all not really numbered. We're just going off of a list that we made. Your list might be different from our list, but they're all the same. We're going to be talking on our fifth episode of the principle of Hermeticism. We're talking about gender, so stay tuned for more of that.
And we're back
From downtown!
Saturday night! Live!
Saturn Day night live? Oh my god, is that what they do it on Saturday? Alright, so we're talking about the concept of gender. Very, very important. Gender is actually a very heavily discussed topic today because there are a lot of different genders that are coming out to the surface.
It's a hot button issue.
It's a very hot button issue. Now, we're not here to get political. We're here to talk about the importance of genders, as in the male and female duality of genders.
Let's just say, just for the sake of everybody's sanity and well-being, for the rest of this video, when we say gender in the context of these Hermetic principles, we are referring to what you could say is biological sex or sexual dimorphism when relating to people in the animal kingdom.
Right. We are trying to be very inclusive of the third aspect, if you want to consider it a trinity of people who are trans and other types of genders as well. So, just for this specific video, we're talking about Hermeticism, which, if you didn't know, was started in 70 AD, about 2,000 years before transgenderism became mainstream and, thrust into society. So, we're talking about these two concepts of male and female gender. If you've ever heard of something called twin flame, and I'm only bringing this up as a concept just to prove a point, basically, as you are a soul, once you come onto this planet, you split off into a male and female respective entity, and you trying to find your soul mate is essentially you trying to reconnect to that oneness, so that once you die, you will both go back to God. It's a very, very multicultural, different ideology and thought process that people for thousands of years had thought.
It's like finding your other half.
Yes.
In the deepest, most fulfilling way, and there's this sort of spiritual, sometimes religious significance attached to that.
Right.
And I think you're absolutely right that at least is reflected in part by the fact that we've been going around this long and still so many people are obsessed with this idea of, I have to find the one that's for me, my soulmate, the love of my life.
Right. And it's actually very interesting because most people are very obsessed with trying to find a romantic partner. Probably now more than ever, just because it's so easy to do it, and the ease of use to be able to find somebody that you want to love is there. You can use technology to find it. But I also find it interesting because most people don't. Most people aren't finding it. And we'll play into that in a little bit. But every single animal or insect or anything that can create life, anything that can create within nature has to have a dual aspect to it. The norm, as being common, is a duality of genders, male and female. And there's this aspect basically of penetration and being the masculine, and envelopment being the feminine.
There's also, what is it, active and receptive?
There are these two entities that basically make up the entire cosmic being. The masculine, being the penetrative, is very direct and it's very cardinal. It goes in one direction, whereas the enveloping is more so circular, I guess you could say, in a sense. And when you combine these two, they essentially make the scientific entity that is known as the Taurus Field, because the energy has to shoot in one direction and then it envelops into a circle, and it's just repetitive and it's forever. And that is reproductive in its own sense, just as how a man has its own penetrating factor and a woman has her own enveloping factor, and with the combination of these two comes a child. Now, there are some very odd examples where there are certain cells or certain entities that can create asexually. They can create, they can reproduce asexually, and those are very distinct cases that probably come down to a molecular and genetic level. However, 90 some odd % of the things that live on this planet that reproduce, they require some form of duality. The concept of gender also plays in the concept of duality and polarity, as we discussed in our previous video, because without these two entities, you need those polar opposites, at least on our third dimensional plane of existence in order to survive, reproduce, and move forward in a positive way. It's really not even about sex. It's really not even about personality. What it really comes down to is a balance. And whether you're a man or a woman or somewhere in between, all of it's okay. What you need to understand is the concept of the hermaphrodite. The concept of the hermaphrodite is a trinity because it is the combination of Hermes, which represents wisdom, and Aphrodite, which represents love. And when you combine these efforts, or in other words, when you combine the left side, the wise side, the analytical side of the brain, the masculine side of the brain, with the right side of the brain, the feminine side, the intuitive part, the loving part, the compassionate part, you can't live a pure existence. You can't live a happy existence without the combination of these two factors. You can't just close off one half of your brain from the other half and pretend like you're going to go throughout life being extraordinarily happy. Most people who cannot find a balance between these two entities, or the hermaphrodite.
Power, wisdom, and love.
It's power, wisdom, and love, like the Triforce in Zelda. It's basically you need these two entities of wisdom and love to create this third entity, the Trinity, which is the godliest, which represents kind of power. In other words, ultimately speaking, what we're saying here is you have to combine the efforts of your left and your right brain, and you have to train them each appropriately by being wise and analytical, but also being compassionate and loving. And you need to combine these to meet in the middle to awaken your third eye, to have enlightenment, to live a full, happy life. And that is essentially the concept of gender.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. And so that we close. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you comment and subscribe, like the video, ring the notification bell, check us out on all of our social media as well, and make sure you spread this information with your friends, family members, and loved ones that need a little bit of motivation and insight. From Team Psycosmos to you, we love you very much.
Doki doki.
Doki doki. Take care.